Today on the 10-12 Big Show, I'm joined by Melissa Triebwasser and Kelley Ford to recap Week 3 in the Big 12 and look at the 3-0 and 4-0 teams in the conference. Then Joseph Duarte of the Houston Chronicle joins us to talk about this Houston Cougars team and their 3-0 start to the year. Chase A Kiddy jumps on board to discuss West Virginia's backyard brawl victory and talk Arizona State. And we wrap the show up, of course, with a look ahead to what is an incredible slate of Big 12 football.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at NFLSundayTicket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. A network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the 10-12 Big Show, where we recap the weekend of Big 12 action with a variety of guests this week. That includes Melissa Triebwasser, Kelley Ford, Chase Kiddy, and Joseph Duarte. 10-12 Podcast, of course, is the flagship show of the 10-12 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. That's TEN, the number 12, the word network. And, of course, we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip Slavin. Thank you for joining us for another episode here of the show. Wherever you are listening, please do us a favor. Leave us 5 stars and a review. It really does help the show out. It takes you just a couple minutes, but it would mean the absolute world to me if you could take the time to do so. If you're watching or listening on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe as well. Help us reach new Big 12 fans looking for Big 12 content, or just Big 12 fans who are still fairly new to the conference. Of course, talking about Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. We have a very specific format for the show here for the Big Show. We start off with our very first segment where we go in the rotation, pull in a couple of people from our set rotation of guests. This week, we don't have a TCU podcast in the network, c'est la vie. But if we did, I would want her leading it. She is, of course, from the Frog Insider, Melissa Triebwasser. Melissa, welcome.
Phillip, very bold of you to ask for a 5-star rating before I opened my mouth the first time in my debut this season. I think that was a little bold. I'd be happy with a 3.5 star. I feel like that would be maybe appropriate for me. But for you, I hope they'll drop that 5 stars.
I would appreciate that. I would. Listen, don't hold Melissa against this. I have had one review that was a 5-star, got knocked because of a guest I had, called out the person who did it, and they bumped it back. So, listen. Bullying works. No, it was not you. Bullying works. No. Different purple team. And listen, when he is on the show, we do numbers every time. Speaking of numbers, he is the man behind the KFord Ratings. Kelley Ford, welcome back, sir.
Phillip, thanks for having me. As always, I'm excited to be here as always. And as we were talking off air, my first time being on the show at the same time as Melissa. So I think this is just going to be a ton of fun. If 6 stars was an option, that's what we'd be shooting for. I know.
And this is the numbers guy, so if he says it, it's got to be true. It's got to be true.
Much to the chagrin of some fans on social media, but that is social media, and 64% of Twitter is bots, so we just roll with it. Let's look at the weekend that was. Week 3 is in the books. An undefeated weekend for the Big 12 Conference in non-conference play. Obviously, we had kind of. It's weird because Kansas State, Arizona was the non-conference game, but we're going to go with undefeated because I guess we kind of count that, but don't. Yes, there were some close calls and some ugly wins this week, but no one will remember that in a few weeks. It will just be remembered as a W because that's all that matters. Power League records in non-conference so far. Power 4 versus Power 4 games through 3 weeks. The SEC is atop of the standings at 10-2. They've been very good against other Power 4 conferences. Big 12 is 6-6. Big 10's 5-5. ACC is 4-10. I don't want to hear about the Big 12 ACC. I wonder which one is better. Derp. Folks, Kelley, Melissa, we start off with this. what are your thoughts on the Big 12 after what we watched this weekend?
I have no idea. I have no idea about this conference. I don't think we know anything about this conference. I don't think we know anything about these teams. I think it's still so early to be able to tell who is good. I think they're obviously, as somebody that was had to suffer through the second half of TCU ACU Saturday night, there was obviously a letdown. Like, I think by the time you get to the third, or for TCU, it's only their second game, and you start to think about conference play coming up. TCU obviously has the Iron Skillet coming next weekend. So I think there was a lot of look ahead this weekend. At least I hope it was a lot of look ahead, because so many teams struggled with teams they should not have struggled with. I think you're starting to see a clear delineation between teams that look like they can get to Arlington and teams that don't, like Colorado. But outside of that, there's a lot of unknowns, and it's going to be, this is the most, we say this, I feel like every year now, but this is the most wide open the Big 12 has been in just about forever, at least since, TCU joined it, that I can remember. And that has to be really exciting for some teams and also really terrifying for some teams, because nobody seems to have a distinct talent advantage or schematic advantage over anybody else. It could be an utter and complete just crap show come November, and I am so here for it.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that, Phillip. This is my favorite projected conference standings graphic to post every single Monday morning, because every single Monday morning, I feel like it looks different. And we've talked about that, at length on this show throughout the summer, in the past, whatever it is. And it hasn't changed. I mean, it has changed, but that fact hasn't changed. And so for me, Melissa said, we're starting to see a line of delineation between teams that can make it to Arlington and can't. For me right now, and this might even come back to bite me, I'd probably draw the line at like Oklahoma State, Colorado, and I hate to do it, but West Virginia. I'd be surprised if one of those three, I had to, Phillip, I had to just jab the West Virginia fans, which actually my biggest takeaway of the entire weekend is the backyard brawl. I mean, how can it not be? So I know West Virginia fans think I don't like them. I love that game. That was incredible, exciting, great for West Virginia. You love seeing it. Rich Rod, he just belongs on that sideline. There was so much good about that game, and it just feels good as a neutral college football fan to be watching it. Yes, I am neutral about West Virginia. Those are the three that I'd say probably not going to be in Arlington. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I don't know. Kansas State was my preseason favorite to get there. Not meaning they had better than a 50% chance, but they had the best chance according to my model. They're now 12th in the projected Big 12 conference standings for me. So they played one game in conference play and they're 12th. It's just, I love this conference. It's awesome. But to answer the question, we don't know. Iowa State is 1-0 in conference play. Houston is 1-0 in conference play. Good for them. We'll see what it does and where it goes, because neither one of them are in my projected top 4 come the end of the year in this conference standings.
So Melissa, you said something I think is a good segue. We've only seen, in many cases, 3 games so far out of these teams. But the problem with that is that's a quarter of the season. We only play 12 games in a season. So, unless you want to wait till we're 6 games in, we have to start having some sort of thoughts on these teams and who they are. And I certainly think in the case of Kansas State and Iowa State, we have 4 games of data. We have a third of their season wrapped up. I think we can try and maybe make some cases for, we think Iowa State's good. They had a weird road game. We'll talk about that in a bit. Kansas State's 1-3 and is 1-3 by barely beating an FCS team. I think it's fair to say they're probably not very good, because they're a third of the way through the season. So I want to talk about the 3-0 and the 4-0 teams in the Big 12 conference at this point, because I think it's interesting to kind of look at them and say, look, we see teams start 3-0, 4-0 all the time, and then get to a bowl game, and that be the season, right? Because a lot of non-conference is different for everybody. You don't know who you're playing is actually going to be good or not, especially when it comes to the Big 12. So let's start with the 3-0 and 4-0. Let's start with Arizona. The red and blue Wildcats beat the purple Wildcats 23-17 on Friday to move Arizona 3-0 on the season. As we mentioned, Kansas State now 1-3. Arizona, look, it was a weird game, and it felt like it was a game they were going to run away from, and then they kind of let Kansas State back in, and then Arizona was able to get the win. They're a team that has been, at this point, being 3-0, it far exceeds expectations I had for Arizona, and I don't think anyone was super high on that particular Wildcat team this season. Do we feel like they're a real 3-0 or not?
I mean, I don't think that I foresee them like, I wouldn't put them out of the mix as the team that could potentially get to Arlington. I agree with what Kelley said, but I don't think they're good. I just think they're been good at finding. They have a very veteran quarterback. I'm super happy to see Noah Fifita bounce back because he's a great college character, right? Like, he's a great person. He's a great kid. He plays an exciting brand of football. So it's good to see him. And I think that, Coach Brennan came in from what he did at San Jose State. If he can replicate that at Arizona, which, does have a little bit more of a history there for positivity, I think he can be successful there. But I think the definition of success is different for Arizona than, say, a Kansas State, right? Like, if Arizona gets to 6-7 wins, which at this point seems very likely, that's probably about where they belong and where they should be this season. I could definitely see them being one of those teams that wins a conference game that they shouldn't, and could upset somebody. And as November starts to play out and you have a bunch of these teams that are all kind of bunched together, playing at Arizona could be a differentiator for one of those programs. But I don't know that I see them being a true contender in this league. But they sure do know how to hang on and hold tight, and they got some bounces their way, and they benefited from some Avery Johnson-ness that we've seen so far through the first month of the season. So credit to them for the way they've started their season. I'm sure they're fired up about it, and momentum is a real thing. So they could certainly string a few more together, but their schedule only gets harder from here.
Yeah, I've upgraded, or the model has upgraded, I should say, Arizona 6.3 points since the preseason. That's number 9 nationally. Only 8 teams have been upgraded by the model more since the start of the year. So it's been a very good start to 2025 for Arizona. Melissa mentioned, 6 wins, 7 wins, likely. I'd say 8-4 right now is what the most likely record is, which would put conference record at 5-4 then. Here's the most interesting thing for me. Arizona has 9 games left. 8 of them have a projected 1 possession spread. Wow. The only one that doesn't, there's a 90% win expectancy at home in week 6 against Oklahoma State. But the other 8, all projected to be 1 possession, and it's actually split. They're favored in 4 and they're an underdog in 4 as things stand right now. So, I mean, if the 1 possession gods are on Arizona's sideline, yeah, this team can be in Arlington. If they're not, bowling might be on the chopping block. So that's why we love the Big 12, and Arizona is a perfect encapsulation of it. So that's how the model's viewing Arizona as things stand.
Like, as we talk about every year, if you want to get to the Big 12 title game, win the 1-score games. Iowa State is 4-0 for the second straight season, the first time that's ever happened in program history. Close call on the road there, but ultimately triumph 24-16 at Arkansas State. Look, as they say on the Solid Verbal, win your clunkers. And I've seen quite a few people who talked about the number of times that the reserves played in this game. I think that happened. I think Matt Campbell did what Matt Campbell does a lot. CMC played the reserves to try and get them some opportunities and some experience in this game, in a game he felt confident they would win. They played around with their food for a while, and when it really mattered, they went out there and they got the win. Everyone's going to have bad games. In no way, shape, or form do I come away from a game where it's like, well, they should have won by a lot. Yeah, probably. But also, how many times have we seen Matt Campbell not care that much about non-conference games like this and treat them like, we're just going to get out of here with a win and go home because it doesn't matter? I am fine with Iowa State. I think they're a legitimate 4-0. Melissa, what are your thoughts on the Cyclones so far?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Iowa State is clearly in the driver's seat. When you look at their remaining schedule, I mean, they have to have the easiest remaining road slate, with really only TCU probably being the only home team that's going to be favored against them, I would guess, the rest of the way. If they're favored against them, well, I don't know anything about TCU yet either. So, but I think that you've got a veteran quarterback. Rocco Beck has looked like he's very comfortable in that offense. He's making good reads. He's making better plays than we've seen him make historically. He still has a little bit of that gunslinger attitude, but he's definitely more in control. Matt Campbell obviously is a great coach. That defense is really, really salty most of the time. They've had a couple of lapses, but to me, they certainly look like a contender and one of the teams that's got to be favored to get back to Arlington come December. And it's going to, I mean, the chips are falling very, very well for Iowa State. They've got a very favorable conference slate overall. And like I said, they're just not going to be challenged very often on the road, I don't think.
Yeah, I really like the defense. Melissa touched on that, number 21 on that side of the ball for me. Phillip, 3-0 so far in 1 possession games. So they already have a little bit of that luck on their side. And of their remaining 8 games, 7 of them have a 1 possession spread. So the only one, again, end of the regular season at Oklahoma State, got an 85% win expectancy on that one. All the other ones you could call a toss-up if you wanted to, and I would not object. 9-3 is looking like the most likely record right now based on the model. I think given Iowa State's schedule difficulty, 10-2 should put them in the conversation for an at-large discussion bid for the CFP. So again, will 10-2 be enough? I don't know. Should it be enough to put them in the conversation? I believe so. And right now, there's a 23% chance that Iowa State gets there, having already bagged 4 wins. So they're going to have to ride this defense. But I think they can get there. And this is definitely a team, as Melissa said, that is going to be in that mix for a spot in Arlington. Surprisingly, and I say surprisingly because it caught me a little bit, they are number 5 in my projected Big 12 standings as things stand right now. They actually fell 1 spot following what the model viewed as a subpar performance this past week on the road at Arkansas State. Can we also talk about why Iowa State was going on the road to Arkansas State? Oklahoma went to Temple as well. There were some weird games this weekend in terms of location I wouldn't have expected. So Iowa State survived. They advanced, and that's what Matt Campbell does.
I want to make sure that we give full credit for the 1-score game record to Rocco Becht, because his record in 1-score games at Iowa State is phenomenal, and CMC's record is not. Texas Tech beats Oregon 45-14 to move to 3-0 and have beaten their opponents by a combined 174-35. I feel absolutely confident that I have the least amount of confidence in Texas Tech amongst all Big 12 teams, given their strength of schedule so far through the season. Thank goodness for next Saturday's game. Big noon on the road at Utah. Texas Tech, phenomenal. Cannot wait for it. We'll have to be in front of the TV for every second. But listen, I have a hard time pegging what this team really is from a ceiling standpoint. What are your thoughts on Texas Tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think their ceiling is obviously getting to Arlington, winning a Big 12 championship, going to the playoffs, and depending where they're seeding, potentially winning a game. I don't know if I believe they can do that. I mean, you've got to look at Baron Morton, and can he stay upright for an entire season? Like, that remains to be seen. He's already been dinged up a little bit this year. They haven't played. You said Oregon. I want to make sure we clarify that was Oregon State.
Oregon State. I'm
Big
sorry.
difference. I know you probably still have PTSD. Totally understandable. I think Oregon just scored on Oklahoma State again, right as we were recording this, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't like, it's such a fascinating thing to see, like, this whole Texas Tech came this close to buying a national championship in softball. They came this close. Will that work in football? Like, that's supposed to be the sport where it doesn't work, right? That's supposed to be the sport where it's 1 of 11 and everybody's bought in, and at the first sign of adversity, like, oh no, Bauer's about to bark. Yep. At the first sign of adversity, is that locker room going to become a problem? You know, hold on.
You're okay.
Okay. Had to yell at the dog. Super professional over here. But yeah, like, and that's what we don't know. Like, this team might be really, really good. They certainly have talent on both sides of the ball, but is Joey McGuire going to be able to deal with the locker room if things start to fall apart from the inside out? And maybe they won't. Maybe this team is 100% bought in and the culture is elite. I have no way of knowing that at this point. We're going to know a heck of a lot more after Saturday, and I'm excited for that, like you said.
Yeah, the game this Saturday is going to be awesome. Before I get into that, I just have to say, Texas Tech fans, like, I'm talking to you right now. The model has you number 22 in the power ratings. That is the best the model has viewed you in more than a decade. Has your offense number 4 right now, which matches the best your offense has been since 2015. Yet every single Texas Tech fan is in my comments complaining about where I have the defense, which, by the way, is number 33, came into the year at 62. So, guys, there's only so much you can improve on a week in, week out basis in a model. Like, keep playing the way you're playing. And we could talk about who you've played, but keep playing the way you're playing. The model's going to respond. So Texas Tech fans, let's enjoy where we are, both overall and on offense. The model will learn about the defense in due time. So with that being said, yes, Texas Tech is a very exciting team. And the game this weekend at Utah is the only game remaining on the schedule that my model makes Texas Tech a projected underdog. Like, this is it. You get past this one, and hey, there's still 4 more 1-score games after that coming down the pike, but this is the big one. It's the one we've been waiting on. And Phillip, I know we're going to talk about Utah. I think we are, and you're going to look ahead later in the week. I just have to say, the symmetry in this game, and it's unfortunate for Texas Tech fans that it's in Salt Lake City, because Texas Tech offense is number 4 in the unit ratings, unit rankings, I should say. Utah defense is number 5. I already talked about the Texas Tech defense is number 33. I'll give you one guess. The Utah offense, number 33. Like the matchups in this game of strength on strength and really good on really good, like the difference for me is home field advantage. It's in Salt Lake. So anytime you've got a game that's this evenly matched, a bounce of the ball here, a bad decision by a quarterback there, a fumble, an interception, anything can make the difference in this game. It's got a watchability score of a 9.5 out of 10. I am very excited for this one. Big noon kickoff. Yes, all of that. It's going to be very, very fun. Texas Tech, though, along with Utah, right now, the 2 teams that my model says are the most likely to be in Arlington. So this very well could be a preview of what we see in early December in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, let's get to Utah real quick. They beat Wyoming 31-6 in Laramie to move to 3-0, but the game wasn't without its concerns. Utah's drive chart in the first half at Wyoming: 42-yard field goal, missed 44-yard field goal, missed 44-yard field goal, punt, fumble, blocked 46-yard field goal. Stop scheduling games in Laramie. Again, I think this is kind of like the Iowa State game. I'm not going to overreact to this game. They got the win. It was a clunker. Get ready for conference play coming up on Saturday. Melissa, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Utah's so fascinating because their defense was so good last year and their offense was such an abject horror that it looks like they went out and addressed, and Devin Dampier's been good, but we still don't know a whole lot about what he's going to look like as the competition ramps up. So I hate to put so much on one game, but I think this Texas Tech-Utah game is going to tell us so much about both teams, and in that way tell us a lot about how the Big 12 season could go. And with the imbalanced schedule, the way that this game is won or lost could also play into tiebreaker scenarios too. So it's to have such a big game so early in the season between 2 of your leading contenders for the conference championship game is going to be really fun. I'm glad that I don't have to worry about it. I've got my own stuff to worry about on Saturday morning with SMU. But I think that, Kyle Whittingham is arguably the best coach in the conference. I mean, he's if he's not number 1, he's not number 3. He's one of the top 2. And so now that he's got some tools in his pocket again, he's doing what he's known to do on defense, and the offense seems, at least much more competent. And that might be all Utah needs to make quite a run this season.
Yeah, the model downgraded Utah a point following last week's win in Laramie. Phillip, I agree. Stay away from that place. But still, even with that, 6.7 points the Utes have been upgraded since the preseason, which is number 8 nationally. So Utah's off to a great start. This is a big test. I've already talked about the matchups on either side being so even, the watchability score, all of that. 4 games left on Utah's schedule that have a projected spread of 1 possession. Only one of them is Utah projected underdog. That's week 8, the Holy War at BYU. Going to be a good one as well. But this is right in front of Utah right now. And I think they know if we win this game, we are looking really good within the conference standings and the projected conference standings. So all eyes on this game. They're going to be focused. I completely agree with Melissa about Whittingham and how good of a coach he is, especially relative to Big 12. I think they're going to win. I really do, because it's at home. But it's going to be a really, really good game. 51% chance to win at least 10 regular season games for Utah. And based on their schedule difficulty, I think that's their at-large discussion threshold. So this is a huge one, and I think they're going to get it.
You both have been fantastic. I appreciate your time tonight. Great job. Everybody go check out the Frog Insider with Melissa or at the Coach Melissa on Twitter. And of course, you all know Kelley Ford. KFordRatings.com is where you can find all of his projections. I'll get updated on Monday at KFord Ratings on all social platforms. Y'all, both of you, thank you so much, and look forward to having you back in the rotation again soon.
What I want to know what Kelley charges just for like an hour on Friday nights, just to call you personally and just say, hey, here's what you need to know about tomorrow's games. Here's the watchability scores. I could just listen to that literally for hours.
Well, check out the website, KFordRatings.com.
I'm living there. Don't you worry.
I appreciate it. Lots on there. I don't have an hourly rate. Perhaps I need one with as many friends that I have hit me up of the spreads. Hey, what's this say? What's that say? They're all making money on it. I'm not, because of my day job, but that's the way it goes. So, Phillip, thank you so much. This was awesome. And Melissa, good luck to the Frogs this weekend, too.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to hear you don't hate our team. Phillip, thanks for having me on.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They gon' find
You
it.
can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Find your next ride at Autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Joining us now from the Houston Chronicle, very excited to have him on the show for the very first time, Joseph Duarte. Joseph, welcome to the 1012, sir.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You covered the Houston Cougars as well as the Big 12 as a whole for the Houston Chronicle. So I had to talk about Houston. We've got to do a deep dive, and I'm thrilled to have you. You were the person I was like, that's who I've got to get on. Look, Houston is off to a 3-0 start. It's not that it's that surprising. I think you look at each of the three games they started the season with, and it's a very reasonable expectation to say that they could be 3-0. They could be very well be 4-0 after Oregon State in a couple of weeks. We knew the defense would be good. The offense really seems to be figuring things out. It seemed kind of a slow start to the season, and it really got going in the second half and late versus Rice, and really got going in the second half against Colorado as well. What's the biggest factor you feel like so far in Houston's offensive success through three games?
A couple of things. One, having a capable quarterback, Connor Wegman. Houston's been looking for a guy for several years, and it was part of why they were so bad offensively last year. Now, it was the unit as a whole, but a lot of it falls on the quarterback. So getting him in place, that was step number one. And then they went and basically made over the entire unit from offensive line, which was another troublesome area last year. They added a few playmakers, and then you get one of the best tight ends in the portal with Tanner Kozel. And then, oh, by the way, you get a guy who's a running back about 5 miles away at Rice to just decide to flip sides of the freeway. So they basically redid this whole unit, and you're right, it was going to take some time, and I think what we've seen the last 3.5, 4 quarters is what I think this offense can do ultimately, and of course it helps that the defense has sort of helped buy them some time to figure things out with the way that they're playing.
I mean, look, Wegman is your starting quarterback. He's got 569 yards through the air, 64% completion rate. Hasn't thrown an interception yet, knock on wood. He's your second leading rusher behind Connors, who, as you mentioned, transferred over from Rice, who's got 271 yards on the ground. And then Kozel, who you mentioned, is the second leading receiver. He's got the most receptions at 17. Next closest is 8. He's got the second most yards so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this team and say, man, they have killed it in the transfer portal. Because to me, it's always if you have a 50% success rate with a transfer portal class, you've done a phenomenal job. It really feels like, even if it's just these three we talk about, I'm sure there's more you can bring up. They have really done a good job, not just identifying the right guys, but getting them in there, getting them in this system, and getting them ready to really be successful for this Houston Cougar team so far.
Absolutely, and with rev share, it's even more important you got to hit on these guys. Your scouting department, your evaluators, they can't miss like you used to be able to do and get away with it because of the investment. So, 5 new offensive linemen, and all 5 of them have contributed in some way. And the sad thing is they need all 5, because we'll get into it at some point, I'm sure. But their offensive line is so banged up right now going into the open week in the schedule. But they hit on a couple of receivers, Amari Thomas, Harvey Broussard. We've mentioned the tight end. We mentioned Dean Connors. So I believe when the 2 deep came out, if you count offense and defense, they had, I believe it was 20 guys that were either backups or starters that came out of the transfer portal. So they really went heavy this offseason, and it's not only guys just to fill in spots. These are guys that are getting meaningful snaps through the first month of the season.
Where do you mentioned the injuries on the offensive line? Obviously, you just hope guys get healthy and are able to come back, and in the meantime, the other players are having to step up. That's what you expect when you put a roster together. Is you got to be ready to go when you're the next man up. But where do you feel like Houston has the most opportunity to grow? At which position groups you say, hey, not as great as we think they can be, but they can be even better than this as the season progresses?
I think it's the receiver group, because you look at what they returned. Stephon Johnson didn't get a catch in the first game, didn't get one until the very last quarter against Rice, and it ended up being for a touchdown. So you knew what you were getting with him, and Mekhi Muse is sort of he was the number 2 receiver last year, but behind them, you didn't really have a lot coming into the season, at least known quantities. And we mentioned Thomas, we mentioned Broussard. They like a young guy in Kobe Young who was hurt most of last year and didn't get to play. So I think that area, as Wegman becomes more comfortable and starts to build that rapport with his guys, and they maybe stretch the field a little bit more, that's where you'll see with the backfield. I think right now, I mean, for the foreseeable future, it's going to be just Connors and Stacey Sneed because they're banged up. They've already lost Rashawn Stanford to a knee injury, and then Jamarian Burnett, we don't know how long he's going to be out. He slammed his hand on a car door a couple of weeks ago, and he's out. So I would say the receiver, and then depending on how the O-line shakes up, they hope to use 8 or 9 this year in the rotation. That it looks like they're going to max that out because of guys that are out right now.
I mentioned at the top, we knew the defense would be successful. I'd hate to just ignore it here because it's been really good. Like that's what Houston relied on so much last year to exceed expectations. And so far to start this year, I mean, it's lived up to kind of last year's expectations. Like it's continuing to be a really solid defense as the offense kind of gets things figured out. They've done a really good job of not giving up big plays. They gave up a few against Colorado, but that seems to really kind of be their calling card is we're not going to let you beat us with big giant plays. You're going to have to go and march up and down the field. Does that feel like what Houston's primary objective is on defense, is limit big plays and make them march up and down the field? What is it about this defense overall that just continues to be so impressive?
Well, I mean, nobody was talking about them this offseason. It was just about how bad the offense was and how do they fix it. They lose their coordinator, Shill Wood, to Texas Tech, but they go and get Austin Armstrong, who's, I think he's barely 32 years old. So they had some unknowns. They only had, I believe it was 3 total returners on that unit. So again, portal heavy, guys that they plugged in, and the things that they've done. This is a team that didn't force a lot of turnovers last year. They already have, I believe it's 6 interceptions through the first 3 games, or maybe it's 4. But still, I mean, when you only had 11 last year and you lose your 2 best guys to the portal, that was a key. And you're right, they're not giving up explosive plays. You know, last year they, even in a good year, they would give up chunks of yardage here and there, and big plays would bite them occasionally. But Latrell McCutcheon at corner has really emerged as a guy in the secondary, along with Kentrell Webb, Mark Stampley, guys like that. And they're also, I think they've done a really good job of that front 7 being able to get some pressure on the quarterback and doing it especially well in the run game because, the week 2 alone, I think there was 52 rushes by Rice. So they've done a good job across the board. And I don't know a lot of people that thought that was going to be the case. I think a lot of people thought it was going to take some time to get this thing going, but they have been a pleasant surprise, only allowing, I think it's 8.5 points a game through 3 weeks.
Yeah, 5 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. They've only recovered 1, but they've forced 3 so far. And we've talked about the transfer portal a lot for Houston. It really seems like they have, in a year where a lot of people coming into the season said it wasn't as good of a transfer portal, and all the conversation about Texas Tech and what all they've been able to bring, it feels like Houston's really killed it in the portal and is not gotten nearly enough credit. And hopefully they will as the season progresses and people start to talk about them more. But look, we have not seen a program so far that lives by the portal be continuously successful. What is Houston doing as far as development out of high school and building players up that aren't just bringing in from the portal?
Oh, Willie Fritz has been on record multiple times that they want to be a developmental program. They want to recruit high school. He feels like just being in the city of Houston alone, that he's never gotten on a plane so far in 2 years to go recruit. He doesn't need to with the Houston area alone. They'll venture out maybe to Louisiana every once in a while, go up to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But they've made some strides. I mean, they've got the number one or number two athlete. He's a quarterback, Keyshawn Henderson. I believe he's number two overall in the 26 class. But this is a kid that this is Ed Oliver caliber ratings that they haven't had in the last 10 years since Ed signed with the program. They've got another two, I believe, 4-star guys that are on the offensive side. So they've made some noise. And if you put Houston in a situation where they're winning in the Big 12, it could be dangerous. They could go out and start getting the players that would normally go to Texas or A&M or Baylor or Texas Tech. They feel like they can put a fence around this part of the state and this city and win with those caliber type players that come out every year.
Yeah, well, we talked for years about Houston wanting to join the Big 12 and what it would mean for everybody else in the conference, and having another Power 5 or Power 4 team in the state of Texas to be battling for that top talent. And look, if Houston can deliver on that, like they've got a real opportunity moving forward. Look, with Houston, they're 3-0. And I know we always want to have conversations if we don't want to overreact to just 3 games, but 3 games in college football season is a quarter of the season. We've got to start having some sort of thoughts on a team. They're off this next week. They're idle before they head to Oregon State for their last non-conference game. What are your thoughts on this team just overall? Like, should we buy into this 3-0 start, or is this a product of the competition? Are teams going to be able to kind of figure them out? What are your thoughts on this 3-0 start? Is it a real 3-0 start, or is it just kind of one of those like, yeah, that's nice. 6-6 might just be where we see them end up.
Right. It's kind of a mixed bag. I had them as a 7-win team to begin the season. I thought that the Colorado-Oregon State game, they could split those. Now they have a chance to win both. And if you're 4-0 after the first month of the season, that means you're 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. That's something they haven't had in 3 years. So that's a huge step. Are they ready to compete in the Big 12? I don't think so. Can they be that Arizona State this year? I don't think so. But the way things set up, they don't play Iowa State. They don't, get maybe a, in a normal year, Kansas State would, they've been off to a rough start, but they don't get a Kansas State or maybe a Cincinnati or a game that you kind of look at and go, that could be a slip up here and there. It sets up really nice for them. And I'm not saying that they're going to be in the race come late November, but it would be a huge step to go from 4-8 to 7-5 or 8-4, and that's what they're building. This isn't just a hey, let's go out and try to win it this year. They want to sustain this. So I think yes, the competition has been a little bit in terms of you think or you should hope that they would win those games. They've done what teams should do, and now it's going to get tougher because they could be 4-0 hosting Texas Tech on October 4th. That's when you start getting to gauge where this team's at and how far off they really are.
Yeah, look, it's a schedule you look at and say, look, I'm not going to pick them to beat Texas Tech, but we don't really know what Texas Tech truly is because Texas Tech hasn't played anybody. I mean, Texas Tech's strength of schedule thus far is far worse than Houston's, in my opinion. They get a road game in Oklahoma State. Not sure what they're going to do there. UCF's kind of having a weird stuff. Like it's a schedule where you say a bowl game is absolutely should be expected, barring some just devastating injuries. Like, I don't know why I can't sit here and say, okay, I could see Houston winning not just 7 games, but 8 games, and maybe they pull off an upset somewhere there
right.
and get to 9.
Yeah, and that's where they want to be. This is a football state, but for the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a basketball school, and they want to get back. And they took some steps the other night. I think the announced crowd was about 37,000 for a 40,000 seat stadium. So they're starting to win back the fans, and they're starting to get that back into that they can be a winning program. And I think that's what Willie Fritz is known for. He's a program builder. He's won everywhere he's gone. It's only year 2. You give this guy, I think, another year, and all bets are off of where Houston could be, because I think that they could really be good in another couple of years, especially with the talent they have coming in, and now that you can use the portal and make strides from year to year. So it comes down to money, and they're starting to put the resources in with NIL, with rev share, and now they just got to make sure that they cash in and don't miss out on those wins, because if they get going, it could be scary for the rest of the league.
Joseph, I appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to get you out of here on this. As I mentioned, you covered the whole Big 12 for the Houston Chronicle. Outside of Houston, which team or teams have impressed you the most so far this season?
Oh, man. Well, I like you mentioned earlier, some of these games, and you look at them and they're sort of like, yeah, you should win those games. I've liked Utah early on. I thought Utah's been a team, and then if you just look at select games, I thought, the TCU opener was really good, but again, we haven't seen much of them. But I would probably go with Utah, Texas Tech, and Iowa State, because I think those, at least two of those teams were teams that we figured at the beginning of the year would be in the race to get to Arlington in December.
Joseph, again, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Won't be the last time. Everybody, make sure you are checking out Joseph's work in the Houston Chronicle. You do an incredible job covering the Houston Cougars and the Big 12 as a whole, sir.
Thanks for having me on. Y'all have a good night.
All right, before we get to our next segment, of course, Battle Bets is the app you need to download if you want to give betting a try, college football, and not have to spend any real money. How does spending $3,000 of someone else's money, fake money, but someone else's money, to make bets on college football games sound to you? Give it a try. It's fun. I love it. I'm having a great time. Shout out at HMarshall9. I think I know who that is, who won week 3 in the 10-12 Fans League on Battle Bets. Pretty sure I know who that is. He'll listen to this and DM me if it is who I think it is. So I got to get him a koozie and a sticker, the 1012 Network. Guys, just go download this app. It's been tons of fun. They just did an update to it, so they continue to work out different things, different issues, requests that we have made. It's not too late to start your own league. You just want to do it for friends, for fun, okay? Like, it is a ton of fun. I'm very much enjoying making my bets. So, in the show notes, you got a link. You can download it there and join our league. If you want to set up your own, just go download the Battle Bets app. Make sure and mention that we sent you their way. It's fun. It is a great, fun experience. I would love for you all to hop in and join. So go and download Battle Bets app today.
You open the Walmart app and boom! The Reebok and Hanes styles that keep your kiddos on their A game delivered in as fast as an hour. That's right, those comfy Hanes Performance Crew socks they love in the app. And the coolest shirts, shorts, hoodies, and leggings from Reebok? Yep, Walmart's got them. They'll feel so focused in their new gear they won't even notice you freaking out on the sidelines. Shop Reebok and Hanes in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Subject to availability, fees, and restrictions apply.
All right, segment 3 of the show, in which our good friend Chase Kiddy joins us. Chase, welcome, sir.
Hello, good evening. Still alive in all contests, feeling great mid-September.
Woo!
Love football.
Woo! I'm still surviving in my Survivor League that our good friend Douglas Farmer puts on. I'm in the Big 12 Survivor League, and feel very good that I picked Houston this week, and that one didn't burn me, but I felt pretty good about it. Of course, Chase joins us every week for the Picks Pod that drops on Thursday mornings. So come back for that one on Thursday. I'll have a guest for it. I just don't know who it's going to be yet. All right, Chase, let's start with the question we like to start with each time here. What outcome this weekend had the biggest impact on your view of that team or the conference as a whole?
I have to be honest, there wasn't a lot of movement for me this weekend. I think we mostly got what we thought we were going to get. But, in service of the gimmick, you always got to come prepared with an answer. So I'm going to say Cincinnati. I think on a week where pretty much everybody was even keel and kind of delivered to par, they don't just give you 70 points for playing an FCS team. You got to take it. You got to find the end zone 10 times. And Sorsby with 6 total touchdowns. I sometimes feel like we talk too much about Brendan Sorsby, which is a weird thing to say, but I'd say we're higher than most on the young man. And
I feel like you and I are at least on the fan club, the board of the fan club, right? We're
yes.
Longtime card-carrying members of the Brendan Sorsby fan club. We have both served various roles on the leadership. And yeah,
I was planning brunches when he was at Indiana, so like I'm a longtime stockholder, and I have been critical of Cincinnati, especially in the early off season before I had done all of my homework on what the roster was going to look like. I was pretty negative on their chances, and they play a tight game with Nebraska in week 1. They hang 70 on a bad FCS team in week 3. In a week where I don't think anybody did anything crazy either direction, that's enough for me.
Look, again, it's not the roster that bothers me; it's the coaching staff. So we'll
yeah.
They're gonna enjoy a week off before they begin conference play on the road at Kansas. So we'll have more time to talk about Cincinnati as we get closer to that game. There is a game we haven't talked about yet here on the show because I have reserved that game for you, sir.
So kind.
And I wish I had pulled the audio from our Picks Pod this week in which you made the case that Rich Rod has spent like an hour every night preparing for the opportunity to take on Pitt again. And lo and behold, West Virginia does the thing. Win of the weekend in the Big 12. Beats Pitt in the backyard brawl in overtime, 31-24. And will now hang on to the trophy in this one until the game comes back in, 5 years, I think?
29.
Is
4 years,
2029. So 4-9, and then we get 8 straight years of the backyard brawl, which bravo to West Virginia and Pitt leadership for giving us 8 straight years of this wonderful game in a time in which we don't get rivalries and rivalries are disappearing. For them to say, like, we don't care about anything else. We're going to make sure and play this game every year because everyone loves when this game is played, whether you're a West Virginia fan or Pitt fan or not. We just love this rivalry. But for West Virginia to get this one in a year where you're like, nah, they're just, I don't see that happening. I mean, bravo, West Virginia. Bravo. In overtime.
I think we're gonna circle back maybe to the Rich Rod part of this in a couple minutes. Just a few observations off the top. Number one, I think the thing that you and Douglas got wrong in the Picks Pod last Wednesday, which came out on Thursday, was it doesn't matter that Pitt is objectively the better team between these two. It doesn't matter. It's the backyard brawl. We have many, many years of history that says, like, the game is a toss-up. It doesn't matter who's good and who's bad. So I thought 6.5, the idea that, like, oh, they couldn't win, and I like the 6.5 was catching in my mouth, I thought was, like, great comedy on Douglas's part, but just not true to what the history of the game is, which is why I played the under. Little sweaty there on the under. The other part, it's hard to sweat out an under when it's 7-3 at halftime. That is just the worst feeling in the world. And that was not a podcast bet. That was a 4-digit number real life bet. So glad I got there at the end. Why the other question that I'm sure some people are going to have is, why isn't West Virginia the stock up team this week? And I don't, Phillip, did that game change your opinion of what the team is? Because it didn't change mine. I mean, I love that we won. I'm happy we won. I don't think they're good now. It's just sometimes a data point is just a data point.
Correct. I'm not gonna overreact to Iowa State's clunker in Jonesboro, Arkansas, or Utah's really weird first half in Laramie, Wyoming. I'm not going to overreact to West Virginia going up 14-3, giving up 21 straight points to Pitt, and then scoring 17 unanswered between the fourth quarter and overtime to win this game. Like, weird rivalry game. Just period. End of story. Like, I have a hard time being like, oh, they're going to have this same – this means that they've turned everything around. No, they still lost at Ohio.
No. Bad team.
And struggled for a half against Robert Morris. Like, maybe it's also that Pitt's really just not as good as we even thought they were. So there we go.
Boy, that Ohio versus Ohio State game. I know that probably wasn't on a lot of TVs on Saturday, but that was a game for a weirdly long period of time. Ohio might just be really good. They might just be the best MAC
they're one of the
team
best
in
1 and
5
2
years.
teams. I mean, but look, beat West Virginia, probably should have beaten Rutgers, gave Ohio State an actual game. Like, they played 3 Power 5 teams. They're 1 and 2, but they've been competitive in all 3 games. So, all right. Don't face Ohio in a bowl game.
Yeah, let's talk about Rich Rod. It's great that it's great that West Virginia won this game. I'm very happy. The fact that it needed an epic last 30 seconds of the game comeback, and then to win in overtime with an early score and a defensive stand, really shouldn't have needed any of that. I don't. It almost looks like for long stretches of the second half, like we were watching Richard Rodriguez's 18 years of backyard brawl trauma playing out in real time. I don't know what explanation has been given. I mean, basically, he kind of got off the hook on a lot of quarterback questions by ultimately winning the game. But if you didn't watch the game, West Virginia's up at halftime. Marchiol's not playing the greatest game in the world, but they're winning. And Rodriguez decides the second half of the backyard brawl is where it's time to do some quarterback experimentation. Let's see if we can find a spark somewhere else. And so they put in Foxy Fox, who quickly throws 2 picks, both of which are in West Virginia territory. Pittsburgh gets points out of both of them. It balloons into a 10-point game that it looks like West Virginia doesn't have the offensive chops to come back from. At one point, they've got the 3rd string quarterback in there. Again, just let's see what happens. They get a little bit of movement out of him. They go for it on 4th and 4 near midfield at one point. It's a classic example. I had a tweet about this. Classic example of, well, the analytics say you should go for it. Well, do the analytics also account for the fact that it's a 3rd string quarterback that's never played college football before and this is his first drive? Is that part of the equation? Because maybe it should be, besides just the naked input-output computer thing. So after all that, into the 4th quarter, Marchiol hasn't played since the 2nd quarter. They just throw him back into the game like, shit's on fire. I guess let's just put Marchiol back in. And then he leads this epic comeback that never should have been necessary in the first place. I don't know what any of that was. I mean, the family group chat, never been hotter. People were losing their minds in the Kiddy family. It's just like cousins I haven't talked to in 6 years are texting me like, what is Rich Rod doing? It's just a mess start to finish. It's the only thing that was uglier in this game was the obvious fake injuries. I don't know what else to say about Pitt's fake injuries. Just go find Rich Rod's 2-minute clip from the post-game presser talking about how concerned he is for the health and well-being of the Pittsburgh players. It's very funny. It's a bizarre game script for all of that to happen. I'm happy they won, but it did feel a little bit like Rich Rod was trying to galaxy brain everything with the quarterback position to compensate for what happened in 2007. And that was a strange hour and a half of my life.
Just making things interesting, just making things fun. We haven't talked about Arizona State yet. Get the win over Texas State. Looked better than we thought they would be. Texas State turned the ball over twice. Arizona State, just 5 penalties in this game compared to their previous games. Scored, 24 unanswered, I think, in this one. And then, Texas State kind of made some scores, but it wasn't enough.
Tried to backdoor it at the end, but didn't quite get there.
Almost. Did Saturday change your opinion on Arizona State at this point? Where do you kind of feel about them as we start prepping for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think I might even do like a little write-up on Arizona State this week. They're an interesting team because I think I was a little higher on them than most coming into the season. I thought they were being unfairly written off because of like, oh, okay, we can't do it again. Like last year was cool, but I mean, that's a one-off. And I think when you looked at what they brought back this year, it was kind of unfair to say you can't do that again because it was mostly the same team intact except for Scatterboo. So that was my pre-flop position. I don't think they've looked great so far, but I think I can see a potential reality where 3 weeks from now, we look back at September and we say to ourselves, the second half of the Mississippi State game was where they figured it out. And they ran out of time to come back in that game. But they looked nice in the second half. They handled Texas State. The offense looked nice. And if they continue to put some things together, then I think they end up where I thought they would be all along anyway, which is one of the better teams in the Big 12 in the mix near the top of the conference.
That's fair. They're still going to a bowl game. Like this. Contend for the
obviously
conference championship game. I'm not gonna go that far. They've got a tough schedule. They've got a tough stretch coming up in October, where they have at Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, at Iowa State for 4 games in a row, which is going to be an interesting one to keep track of.
And so far, you would say that Texas Tech and Utah have looked better. Like Iowa State, I think you can make a case either way, but I think so far you would say Utah and Texas Tech have looked better than ASU, and that they've looked like the 2 best teams in the conference.
Yeah, but again, Texas Tech's played nobody.
Right, nobody.
And Utah's P4 win is a team that just fired their head coach.
Its coach
into the season. So yeah, all right. Chase, as always, it's a pleasure, man. We will talk to you again on Thursday when we make picks this week. Y'all come back for the picks pod on Thursday, and we will have Chase's stock upside down in the show notes as well. Read everything he does at BetMGM.
Yes, we will. Some big games this week, so looking forward to the picks pod.
All right, wrap this show up by talking about the slate that's coming up this weekend. We're mostly wrapping up Big 12's non-conference this weekend. We still have Houston at Oregon State. The following weekend, that's the final one. The positive, there's no more FCS games. Our last 3 were this past weekend. All 3 teams playing FCS teams got big victories. Arizona, Cincinnati, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Utah. That's 6 teams are all off this week, or all idle. But we still got 8 Big 12 games because there's so many non-cons left. We'll kick the week off on Friday. With the 77th edition of the Turnpike Classic, Oklahoma State welcoming Tulsa to Stillwater at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. How do the Cowboys look after a week off to lick their wounds from the absolute beatdown that Oregon gave them? Mike Gundy, as a head coach at Oklahoma State, has not lost to Tulsa. Tulsa has not looked all that great so far this season, so we'll certainly see if OSU with a week off is able to perform better given all the conversations that are currently being had about Mike Gundy and his job. Saturday morning, as we've mentioned, big noon kickoff in Salt Lake City for Utah versus Texas Tech. Oh man, what a game. 11 a.m. Saturday morning. What a game on Saturday morning. First look at both teams against a quality opponent. I cannot wait. I hope this game lives up to all of my expectations and then some, because it could be an absolute doozy. I hope it does numbers. Y'all, unless your team is playing, watch this game. Watch this game. This gives me a huge and fantastic game. I cannot wait. Is one other Big 12 game on in the morning on Saturday. It's our last battle for the Iron Skillet for a while. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. TCU welcoming SMU to Fort Worth. This one on ESPN2. Rivalry's going on pause after this season. Not sure when it'll come back. I understand both sides are like, stop ending rivalry games. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're better than that. In the afternoon, one Big 12 game in the afternoon on Fox. Big 12 day on Fox. The big day for the Big 12 on Fox. 2:30, UCF welcoming North Carolina to Orlando. We saw what TCU did to North Carolina. They've won 2 games since. Now UCF gets their shot at home in the bounce house. Let's see what UCF can look like after a week off to get themselves ready for this game. West Virginia off their backyard brawl win is going to travel to Kansas, who's coming off an idle week. This one's at 5 p.m. on FS1. Should be interesting game to watch. I definitely think it's one to keep an eye on at least. Big 12's big day on Fox wraps at 6:30 p.m. with Baylor facing off against Arizona State. Another one where we're like, This should be interesting. There's these conference games for this week because there's 3 of them. Texas Tech, Utah, West Virginia, Kansas, Baylor, Arizona State. Those are 3 really interesting, for a variety of reasons, but very interesting conference games, especially the Baylor, Arizona State, and the Utah, Texas Tech, both on Fox. Bravo, Fox. Just a whole day of Big 12 on Fox. Cannot wait for this. Also at 6:30, BYU's on the road at East Carolina on ESPN2. And Big 12 After Dark this week features Colorado against Wyoming, not in Laramie, in Boulder, at 9:15 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. No TNT HBO Max game this week for the Big 12. So you only really just need Fox, FS1, and some ESPN channels. Should be an interesting weekend of Big 12 games. I'm excited. I'm excited for 3 conference games. They should be phenomenal conference games. Cannot wait. What does Oklahoma State look like? I think it's a really, really, really fun weekend of Big 12 football. And the conference games are just these should be phenomenal conference games. Y'all make your plans to be in front of the TV all day. Make your plans to be listening to us on Thursday. Picks Pod, as we mentioned. We'll have Chase and myself and a guest making picks. We'll recap last weekend. Good week for Chase. Not as good for me. Not as good for our guest. Like I said, find every show on the network, 1012network.com. Thank you, everybody who's been listening. Don't forget to download Battle Bets. Check out Sports Social, 1012network.com. Folks, we'll talk to you on Thursday.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.